I've spoken about this device right here many times in the past now, and I wanted to dedicate a video to talking about how I run pretty much my entire channel off of this one laptop. Now, outside of me needing to use my PC for things like my microphone recording, technically I could get away with using it on my laptop. I just don't, because currently I've still got my PC sat there. There might be a chance that I decide to mess around with the setup and just go laptop only for a little bit, but I'm not 100% certain on doing that idea. But today I wanted to give you a overall rundown of how I run all of my channels with just one device. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention as well is that I do use this 1TB SSD by SanDisk, and it does work wonders when it comes to doing video editing. As for a very long time I was using a hard drive that stored all of my files on it, and it made the editing process a lot slower. Using an SSD has definitely changed everything and made everything a lot more speedier. However, the laptop itself, as we all know, is an absolute powerhouse with the M1 Pro chip, and overall just the insane power that comes with that. So when it comes to the beginning processes of anything to do with content creation or running any of the channels, obviously you've got YouTube. That's pretty simple. Everything goes with it. You just sign and create your account, start uploading videos. However, for that beginning process, I use Google Docs when it comes to creating any form of script for a video. For these sorts of videos, I typically just do bullet point scripts, as I don't see the requirement for the most part to do a full script for the tech channel videos. Only ones that I will do that with is things like reviews, because I'm trying to give an overall actual solid opinion that I want people to take as a, okay cool, this guy is giving you information that actually gives you value out of it. However, for videos like this, for the most part, I can talk off the top of my head with rough guidelines that I'm going off of for the bullet points. So yeah, I use Google Docs personally, mainly because it's free and you get pretty much everything that you would need for a baseline that you would get with things like Word and so on. So there's no point of paying for those if you can get it with Google Docs for free. I also use Sheets for other things such as, tracking money and so on, but outside of that, those are really the main ones that I use. And then it gets to recording, which is where I guess it becomes into a tricky situation when you say one device. When I say one device and running one device, I am kind of telling the truth. I pretty much use this for scripting, editing, and so on. However, for the recording process, obviously, I use the ESO RP. I've made a video about it. It's a great camera for photography, and for basic YouTube videos like this, it does a great job as well. Now, I could choose to, and I have done in the past, which is you can plug it into your laptop and then use OBS, for example, and record off of that. It does actually work out a lot better than doing recordings like this, because, for example, you can only record for up to 29 minutes and some amount of seconds before the camera says, yeah, you now need to create a new recording file. So overall, I would recommend every now and again, if you're wanting to record longer videos, plugging it directly into a device. However, the only thing to take into account with that is that it still doesn't change the fact that your battery will run out eventually. But the in-between process between editing and video recording is going to be file transfers, and onto the laptop, it's outstanding. When it comes to it, overall, one thing that I love about this, and I think everyone does, is that they went back and they added an SD port, and that's been great for me, as for a long time, for some reason, it wasn't working properly, but it eventually started working right after an update, so I think that was just a software issue. But overall, it transfers everything so quickly in comparison to what I had to do all the time, which was I'd have to plug it in with an adapter that I still have and I still use every now and again for either, plugging it into my computer, or if I need to have the extra USB ports for things like my hard drives. But most of the time right now, I'm not needing the hard drives, as they're now just my backup option. However, yeah, the transfer speeds are absolutely outstanding. I sent over 1 hour's worth of footage from my SD card to my laptop, and it took around about, I think, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, which is insane to think, considering that's probably around about 40 or so gigabytes. So it did very quick results for me in comparison to my old laptop, which was a 15.6 inch MacBook with a i7 900, I think. But yeah, it was surprising to say the least. Now, when it comes to video editing, I use Premiere Pro, and I use the Adobe apps for most things that I want to do when it comes to any form of basically working on the project after the fact. I use Lightroom for a lot of things. So for example, if I'm taking any photos for this channel, I'll use Lightroom to make sure all the coloring is all correct that I want it to be, and then I take it into Photoshop to actually create the thumbnail 100%. And then with video editing, I do use Premiere Pro. Personally, I just prefer it. I've tried out the other ones. I used Sony Vegas in the past. I've tried Final Cut in the past, and I just didn't really like it. I preferred overall just using Adobe's software. And for me, it works out perfectly, and as well as that, it runs so smoothly on this device. I very rarely find myself having any issues. The closest thing that I've ever had is that when you're importing, let's say, a load of 4K files, it can slow down a little bit and struggle sometimes in that editing process. So you do have to close off a load of other apps so they all run 100%, which is the only time that I'd say if you are, let's say, getting into content creation and you want to be able to run 4K footage without any issue, that is the only time I'd probably say, you know what, you might want to upgrade to, let's say, the M1 Max chip instead, or even the M2 Max chip, because they might be working out a lot better for you overall than the Pros do. And then, like I said, I use Lightroom and Photoshop, so the photography bundle with Adobe, they do work out really well for me personally. I use them for one, photography, so you know that's the whole reason of having Lightroom in the first place, but also for things like thumbnails and so on. For all of my channels I use Photoshop. I never use anything else because there's no real point in me doing so, and also you need to change the file sizes for YouTube videos, so it all works out really well for me just to use those two. And also, obviously, when you're wanting to learn things within Adobe products across the board, you've got tons of YouTube videos that you can base it off of. And also in the past, I've never had any issues when using Photoshop or Lightroom with it slowing down ever. Literally, I'd say the closest thing to having any issues was my Wi-Fi running slow one day, and it was just taking ages to import some files that I had on the cloud with Adobe. So all in all, 100% would recommend using this laptop as a daily driver for everything content related. So anything from YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or if you're even on, let's say, Facebook, for some people they are. But outside of that, yeah, it runs everything really smoothly and works wonders when it comes to the video creation process. And it is why in my overall review for this laptop, I did call it the best laptop for creatives. I think that it does work wonders overall with giving you everything possible to start off with, especially. Now, the only thing that I will say that is a slight bit odd that I've noticed more and more recently, because I recently got the AirPods Max and I've been using them for video editing, but what I find really strange is that there's a delay on the MacBook, but there isn't a delay on my computer. It's very odd. So let's say if I'm video editing over on my computer, there'll be a little bit of audio difference, but very minuscule, to the point where literally it's almost unnoticeable. I'll be able to literally pause it and it has paused exactly, and it won't repeat itself for like that little millisecond, whereas on my MacBook it does that, which for me makes zero sense when you consider, you know, they are Apple products after all. They're meant to kind of work better together, but for some reason it kind of works better on my computer, which I don't know, doesn't make sense to me. However, all round, I would still 100% recommend using this laptop, as I use it as my daily driver for everything across the board, from content relation and also things like business and all that sort of thing. So I'd 100% recommend using it, as it does everything great. Anyway, that is the idea of how I run everything on my laptop. A very quick overview of how I do things when it comes to YouTube related stuff. I'm not going really into the weeds of it, purely because if I was to go into the weeds of, okay, how do I actually film everything? How do I record? How do I do audio? How do I do this and that? It will take a longer while to get through. Quite a while anyway. So yeah, hopefully this video was valuable in some way, and if you guys are interested in buying one of these, there'll probably be a link down below, and I'll see you guys in next week's video. Have a good one.